Welcome to part 2 of my series on building a rain catchment system. In part 1 you saw me building the base, installing the bulkheads and the shut-off valves. After leaving the sealant to cure for about a week, I was ready to take the barrels outside and connect them together. To be honest, I was kind of dreading this. Attaching both ends of this short length of pipe between these two fittings seemed like it would be kind of tricky. Step 1 was easy enough. Wrap a little plumber's tape around the 1-inch NPT barbed connector and screw it into the fitting. But with the ambient temperature around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, I knew it wasn't going to be easy to get the actual pipe onto these fittings. So at first I tried applying a little silicone lubricant to the hose. After struggling with that for a little while, I resorted to warming the tube with a blowtorch to soften the plastic a little. In retrospect, I probably should have just used hot water for this. I'm sure by overheating the plastic I've slightly weakened it, and I'm sure I'll be paying for that mistake in due time. Even with the silicone lubricant and the pipe warmed up, this was still not an easy task. After several minutes of struggling, the fittings themselves started to move, and I had to pull out a wrench to stabilize everything. Thankfully, the rubber flex seal on the bulkhead itself didn't budge, so that seal was still safe. But once I got the pipe as far on as I needed, I retightened the fitting and then tightened the hose clamp. With the lessons learned earlier, I applied a slightly gentler heat to this end of the tube, taking my time and softening up the plastic a little bit better. Using a spare shut-off valve for extra leverage, the fitting actually slid into the pipe fairly easily this time. After removing that shut-off valve, all that remained is to bend it around and fit it into the actual fitting. What I discovered was that by not tightening the hose clamp on this end of the tube and using a little bit of the silicone lubricant in the pipe, I was able to freely rotate the fitting inside the tube while screwing it into the shut-off valve. This worked remarkably well, and after just a few minutes I was done. Then all that remained was to tighten the hose clamp, and I could finally test the system with some water and see if there were any leaks. One of my neighbours was kind enough to let me use their well to fill a few 6-gallon jugs to test this system out. Alright, so that's about 10 gallons. So then I'll open this one. I'll fill that pipe. And then when I open this, it should overflow into the next barrel. And that's when I discovered the leak. There's a hole in it. Turns out the second barrel has a giant split at the seam at the bottom. So I shut everything off again. This is a classic example of why I thought and was right that having a flexible hose between the two barrels was a smart idea. This one has a leak in it, which I just discovered. So I'm able to just sort of pull it over and work on it from the inside without disconnecting it. If that was solid rigid PVC, that would be impossible. So yeah, I'm glad I did that. You can actually see light through the hole. About a 6-inch wide gap. That rubber flex stuff is used for potable water, so should be good enough for watering plants. You're going to be able to see this. I decided to really put my flexible hosepipe idea to the test and turn the whole thing upside down and also fill the gap in from underneath. So, forced to wait another week for that new seal to dry, I decided to at least finish testing out the first barrel and the funnel idea. So I clamped the lid on the barrel and ran a few gallons of water through the funnel. The flow rate seems pretty good with no leaf debris in the funnel, probably about what I'd see from a downspout. Currently there's no kind of overflow built into the system, but it seems that the seals at the top of these old barrels aren't airtight anymore, so I'm not worried about air needing to escape, and if the funnel overflows it'll just pour onto the ground. I was curious to see how this funnel would function with more leaf debris in it, so I added a bit more and did another test. I'm pretty happy with this funnel idea, and I think a drain pipe draining into this should give me plenty of catchment. With the exception of the giant leak which I had to repair, I was pretty happy with all these tests. I'm excited to start work on the roof and gutter system, including the first flush system, and to run the PEX line down to the greenhouse, which will all be in upcoming videos. But unfortunately that's all going to have to wait for a while, because as I was waiting for the sealant to dry, we got hit with a snowstorm. Luckily no damage had been done, so all I needed to do was set about winterizing the barrels by draining them, making sure there was no water trapped in any of the valves. I hope you enjoyed this video and consider subscribing to see the rest of the rain catchment series, as well as all the other videos I hope to share with you as I restore this once neglected woodland. My plan is to devote all of my spare time over the next few years to projects like off-grid cabin building, creating hiking trails and campsites, and general land steward projects as I gradually transition to a sustainable off-grid homestead. So I hope you'll join me on that journey. Either way, thanks for watching.